Hi, Elina.
Yes,
It's really good to have you here. How are you?
I'm very fine. Thank you, Marco. Thanks for inviting me to come
Oh,
chat a little bit today.
no problem. My pleasure. So, you are dialing in from Tanzania. Is that correct?
Yes, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
That's awesome. So, how long have you been living in there?
I've lived in Tanzania 2.5 years. And before Tanzania, I was living in Liberia for 3 years, and I'm originally from the Netherlands.
Wow. So you went. So what kind of drew you to Liberia, and maybe what drew you maybe to begin with in the African continent?
Hmm. Honestly,
Bit of
I
a
was
hard
reading a
question
book.
to begin with.
It's very random. It's very random. I was reading a book one day, and there was one page about Liberia, and I realized I didn't know anything about this country. And I felt like at that time that I was like very worldly and knew a lot about different countries. So that really like awakened my curiosity. And I thought, okay, that's where I need to go. Um, so at that time, I had done an internship in which I had to liaise with a lot of NGOs. And one of those NGOs I knew was working in Liberia. So I looked up their email address, sent them an email, and they linked me to someone in Liberia, which is actually Richard,
Yeah, I've
who
met.
is, yeah, who then, he invited me to come work in Liberia. And now we are working together in a totally different context in this company, Emergi. So that's how I got there in the first place.
That's a crazy story. And so when you were down there in Liberia, I remember reading a post or a blog that you did. You kind of maybe studied a little bit about the effects that Ebola had on entrepreneurs, and that's really interesting. And specifically, why you focused on entrepreneurs, especially maybe you were drawn to that entrepreneurial community to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an anthropologist by training, and I was doing a master's in international development. So, really, with a focus on developing economies, post-war economies. And, Liberia had just gone through the Ebola crisis. So, I was very interested to see, how do entrepreneurs respond to a completely changing economy? And now it turned out to be quite relevant with COVID and that changing the economy so drastically for people as well.
Yeah.
um, but what always drew me to it is that topics of development and post-war can be very heavy, but when you look at entrepreneurship, it's very like aspirational, it's focused on hope, it's like very energized. And I found that group of people to be very uplifting and interesting, in kind of a context that can be a little bit intense sometimes.
I 100%. And I think, I mean, both of us, are both working for a startup, and I, I just see that, within that entrepreneurial community, you're either drawn from it or scared by it. And I think maybe both of us were just drawn by its energy and positivity, like you said, right? The topics are really dark and really hard, because what entrepreneurs always do is, they look at the world and see what's wrong with it, and kind of try to find ways to make it better. And I think, that has attracted me to work for ION, and maybe, has attracted you to kind of join Emergi. So with that kind of learning that you got from what you did and the work that you did in Liberia, I mean, has that impacted any of your work that you're doing right now in Tanzania? How are things in there? In terms of like how do you work and how do you interact with people?
Okay. So when I was working in Liberia, I worked for an NGO, and that's
Yeah.
Richard, who is my colleague at Emergi and who's the founder of Emergi. So we were working there together, and we used to provide trainings to entrepreneurs. Like, we would travel along the coast, do 3-day workshops teaching people how to write business plans, how to be innovative, we used to host design thinking workshop. So it was very, inspiring, and it was more mentoring and the coaching side. Now in Tanzania, I I am also running a company here, so that would also had to be set up from square one. Of course, I learned a lot from how, a little bit of the mechanics of that. But what I find very interesting is that when you have a startup, you get to decide not only what you want to work on, but also how you want to work together with the people in your team.
Yeah.
A lot of companies that have existed a long time, their HR manuals are set, their ways of working are set, but there are no, hard and fast rules about how you have to work together. And I find it super energizing, especially in a small team, that you can just say, okay, these are our values, and we're going to be innovative, not only in our technology that we want to put forward, but also in how we relate to each other.
I think that's the basis of especially the startups, right? I think it begins. I think it really begins at the cultural level, like the cultural fit with the startup. It's all fundamental, and then from it comes the development of the technology. But then the way that we were speaking about it before is that there always needs to be a clear link between the human and the technology, right? Because it doesn't matter how good the technology is. It really just needs to have that human element in it that just draws people in, and just that exploratory and that curiosity that is so inherent to human beings, that I think really the technologies of today that are able to change the way that we work and live are those that start with the human in mind. And I think given the chats that I've been having with Richard and kind of looking at what Emergi has been doing, you guys have done an amazing job of doing that. Just starting with the human first, just really understanding their problem and how they were facing that, and kind of then translating that and turning that into a business. Do you see that kind of interplay between the human and technology kind of being fundamental to it as well?
Absolutely, because when I think of how Emergi came to be, Richard, he was already working on like a solar cooling technology, but from where we were working, in our business development NGO, is when we would look down, there was a big tuk-tuk park there. Mm-hmm. So all day we would see them driving, parking, fixing their Bajaj, and that's where the curiosity came from. Like, who really are these people? Like, what is it like for them? Do they actually earn money with what they're doing? How does this affect them? So that's where research came from, in which we looked at exactly those questions. So what we found is, on the one hand, drivers are really experiencing a lot of noise pollution in the internal combustion engine tuk-tuks. They call them KKs in Liberia, so that's kind of the slang that we use. And but also exhaust, and the ownership schemes are really poor. The driving skills are not very developed, and people need to pay quite a significant amount, even to rent or to gain ownership over the KK over a period of time, which allows them to basically sustain their livelihood in a very basic way, but it doesn't provide opportunities for upward social mobility. So that's where the idea, to bring a KK that is electric, solar charged, more quiet, clean, and to make of those drivers really like examples, training them also in, like personal development, driving, environmental issues, even basic business skills, so that, they can really climb the socioeconomic ladder.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I remember when I had the first chat with Richard, and he kind of expanded on the whole idea of having electric. Did you call them KKs? KKs.
Yeah, KK.
KK. And just inherently finding ways to enhance people's life, because what like you said, right, it doesn't stop there. It always there is something else, and then something else, and then something else that ends up just being, a movement that enables these people to, like you said, move up that social ladder. So can you expand on, on the work that you guys are doing at Emergi with, these solar powered KKs?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have been developing the idea for what this business should look like for a while. And it's not cut and dry. Even the whole process of thinking of what the business model should look like was very interactive, where we hosted like a design thinking workshop with a segment of the Liberian population to see, what do they see as good solutions? What are the options? I mean, we have so many ideas, right? We want solar charging stations that are used for the kekes, but also can be used by the community. We're looking at kekes with integrated solar panels. So it's like, if you run out of gas, you just leave it in the sun and it recharges, We're looking at an app that can link customers to drivers. And also, even how can the keke be converted from a passenger vehicle into a maybe like a cargo or some small business with cooling inside. So the opportunities are really endless. Right now we're in the pilot phase, so we've run a successful crowdfunding campaign, we have investors on board, and now we have our first fleet that is going to Liberia. So this fleet is not going to have yet, completely integrated camera systems and all those things. We're starting with the basic. So the basic for us is to make sure to test, okay, how far is the range of this KK? How far can it depend on the solar chargings? It's kind of like the test round that we're working on now. And also very key right from the start is how we get the drivers on board. So we're going to work with all female drivers, at least for the first round. So that's very, it's a little bit of, I guess, an anomaly in Liberia, but we came to stand out. So our KKs are going to look like spaceships, basically, because they look very different from the typical internal combustion engine one. So we're already standing out, so we might as well go all the way.
Take the whole thing and just do it your way. I think that's the way to do it. And look, I see very close similarities to what we're doing at IOEN, and I think that's really what ended up being the reason why we ended up partnering as both companies, because we are here to stand out. And with the work that we've been doing at IOEN has always, it has always started with us thinking about accessibility, and that's the reason why the protocol that we've developed is open source for everybody to use, see, make it better, and kind of, like you said before, make it available in the market, and then allow people to take it and frame it whatever they way, whether they want to, like in your example, whether they want to do a ride sharing app, or they want to, allow that to be like a car share one. So it really just, it allows the customer to see that product and have the ability for them to kind of carve out their own usage out of it. And I think, there is, I think having that freedom just allows a lot more usability and a lot more learning, right? Because you said before, it started with you having that co-creation phase with the Liberian community, because unless you work very, very, very closely with them, it's really hard to just do it on, in a research facility, just understand the problems. Is that you will not understand them until you are there and understand it and see it. And, with IOEN, we see the problems that are here. You were telling me about, power outages being, very, very common in Tanzania. And so, there is a lot of need for, people to be able to access that basic digital tools for them, to be able to move up that social ladder that you mentioned. But, like anything, Liberia is, I think, like some of the African nations, inherently disadvantaged because you have that that lack of critical infrastructure, right? You've got the Liberian, electrical corporation that it's really, really unstable. It's really hard for private people, for private business owners to run privately, their own generators. And so it really is about, hey, how do you create something that starts with the customer, with that person, and then you work yourself up into the system. And I think, even what you guys have been doing, right, it just starts with the customer and then it finds itself up towards a community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So are you partnering with other organizations also on the African continent specifically?
We are. So we've got a partnership coming, and there's this company. It's actually a much older company. It's about 15 years, and we haven't made the announcement yet. But they're based in Johannesburg, and they're all about electrical system and Internet of Things devices. Which, with ION, what we've built something that is so simple to access that people can just start doing things simply by downloading the app, and the app enables them to then have some visibility and communicate within that local community about, the energy production and energy sharing that is happening. And then, of course, you can build all the way up to, you can have some smart plugs, some IoT devices. And so going back to what you said, we are 100% very, very interested in developing our presence in the African country, because we do see, that part of the world to be able to leapfrog a lot of the things that, developed countries have taken 10, 15 years to develop. We've got the technology already. We don't have to make them go through the whole cycle again. We can just enable them, through these partnerships to have access to kind of the latest technology and enable them to break apart from that sphere. Yeah.
I so hear what you're saying. And I think where we align a lot is that we really focus on community. So both the community of supporters that helped us in the crowdfunding campaign, our like everyone who works in our team and our personal networks that we're leveraging. And what I really love when I look also at you guys' LinkedIn and all the partnerships and even this that you're doing is you're really building that community. And that is going to help us from stopping ourselves from reinventing the wheel every time, focusing on what we are actually good at. So I'm, very excited to see how we're going to work together over the coming years. And I just see it, the opportunities seem endless also because of these partnerships.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the conversation with Richard has always been, it has always started with, hey, how do we enable our communities to benefit from this, right? Because with anything, right, you are as strong as the community that supports you. And that's why, we've always tried to start with the community first and just build things from the community upwards. And, we are a community-driven organization. We are not for profit. That he's really just driven by the impact that we provide to our community. And, even Redgrid as being, the first thing that it did is that it did a crowd equity as well in 2019. So, we are both kind of following that same path, right? We are starting with the community first. And I think it's quite hard, right? Because, you're dealing with people, and ultimately people are really unpredictable, and it's really hard, to kind of convince them of something unless they can see it and try it. And, with the technology that is as advanced as the one that we're doing at ION and even your one, right? You really have to be there with them and going through the journey with them. Did you find it at any point kind of that challenge of, dealing with this community and just understanding the importance of developing that community, but at the same time, as I said, it really is hard to build a community that ultimately follows you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think we played with the idea of doing a crowdfunding campaign for so long. And I think we worked a year to build it up before we even launched it. And I kept telling Richard, like, come on, we need to launch. But it is a little bit scary as well, because this is like, you're putting yourself out there. But I think it was good because we refined our message. And yes, we communicate with the Liberian community, but we need Liberians on our team, like working at Emergi, because, it needs to, we really need to work together, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I thought actually going, like putting yourself out there, making the jump, that was probably the scariest, but we got great response actually. And yeah, now we feel accountable to our community, and it's good because that pushes you to actually deliver on your promises.
100%, 100%. And I think that it's really, really important, right? To put yourself out there, but to put yourself out there in a way in which people can hold you accountable, because at that moment, then you really just, you know, start to work in a way in which you have that narrow vision of, I want to deliver something for the community, for the benefit of those people that are part of that community. And until you do so, I think you keep trying and trying and trying. And, you know, you're doing your pilot phase. We are, you know, Red Grid is a little bit more advanced. IOEN is still a bit early, but, you know, it will all be about trial and error. But at any point, we always have to be better than we were before. It's all about iterating, but that iteration again comes from that ability for us to interact with our community and to see what they're feeling, you know, how we can make, you know, those things better as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So maybe why don't we conclude the fireside chat with a usual question that I always like to ask. What is your why? You know, why do you do what you do, and kind of what drives you to do the things that you do every day?
Me personally?
You personally?
Okay. I think I'm very motivated by growth. That's like my core value.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's for me personally and just us as a society. I feel like we're not there yet, but we can make strides. So that's really what motivates me. Like each day you can either stay where you are or elevate to the next level.
Yeah.
So I prefer to spend my time, you know, trying to get to that next level.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. We always have a choice whether we move or we stand. Some people choose to move forward, and others choose to stand. Eline, thank you so much for our chat. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really look forward to having more of these chats with you as well, and be part of that community. I'm super excited about what you guys are building at Emergi, and what we can do together with IOEN as well.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. It was really a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. And to the community listening, reach out. Like, we are ready to partner.
Yes.
We are ready to, you know, bring the renewable energy revolution to West Africa. So reach out to us, and yeah, thank you again. 100%.
So in case you guys want to make sure that you reach out to the right company, it is Emergi. I'll put the link. We'll have all in there. But yeah, thank you so much, and please do reach out.